The night is quiet over the Nile. Far above the dark river, countless stars rest in a sky untouched by city lights. The air has finally cooled after a long day of heat. Mud brick houses stand silently beneath the moonlight. Palm trees barely move. The distant sound of water drifts through the darkness like a slow and gentle song. Along the riverbanks of ancient Egypt, most people are asleep. Farmers lie on woven reed mats inside simple homes. Builders rest their tired backs after carrying stone beneath the hot sun. Fishermen sleep near their boats. Potters, bakers, servants, and scribes all drift through the peaceful hours before dawn. The Nile continues its journey through the night. It never truly stops. The river slides quietly between fields and villages. Moonlight glimmers across its surface. Somewhere in the darkness, a water bird calls once and then falls silent again. Soon morning will arrive. And when it does, one of the most important daily tasks in all of Egypt will begin. People will collect water from the Nile. It is a simple activity. Yet it touches nearly every part of life. Without this water there is no bread baking in the morning. No washing. No cooking. No mixing clay for pottery. No watering animals. No cleaning homes. No life in the villages that line the river. Every day begins with water. And so, while the stars still shine overhead, some Egyptians are already stirring from sleep. Inside a small house made from mud brick, a woman opens her eyes. The room is dim. The air smells faintly of dry earth and straw. Her family sleeps nearby beneath simple linen coverings. A clay oil lamp has long since burned out. Only a pale glow from the moon enters through a small opening high in the wall. She listens. Nothing but distant insects and the quiet sounds of breathing. For a few moments she remains still. Ancient Egyptians often rose before sunrise, especially during the hotter months. The coolest hours of the day came before dawn. Important work was often started early. Slowly she sits up. Her bare feet touch the packed earth floor. The floor feels cool after the night. She wraps a light linen garment around herself and moves carefully through the darkness. She does not wish to wake the children yet. Outside, the village remains mostly silent. A few neighboring homes show signs of movement. Another door opens. Someone coughs softly. A donkey shifts its weight and snorts. The eastern horizon still appears dark, though a faint gray line is beginning to emerge far away beyond the fields. The woman lifts a clay jar. It is not light. Even when empty, a large water jar has weight. Its surface feels rough beneath her fingers. Tiny marks from the potter's hands remain visible in the clay. She balances it against her side. Soon many others will be making the same journey. The path leading toward the Nile is familiar. Thousands of footsteps have shaped it over countless years. In the darkness, villagers begin moving along the dusty road. Some carry jars. Others carry baskets. A few walk with wooden poles balanced across their shoulders. Water containers hang from either end. Nobody rushes. The day has not fully started. Voices remain low. The world feels half asleep. As the woman walks, she passes small gardens growing near the village. She can smell damp soil. The scent is different from the dry desert beyond the fertile lands of the Nile. Here, water makes life possible. Tiny plants wait quietly for the coming light. Farther away, fields stretch into darkness. Wheat and barley sway gently in the faint breeze. Soon farmers will arrive to begin another day of labor. But for now everything remains calm. Ahead, the river slowly appears. At first it is only a darker shape against the landscape. Then the water begins reflecting the fading moonlight. The Nile. Ancient Egypt's great lifeline. The river has shaped nearly every part of existence here for generations beyond counting. Children grow up beside it. Families depend upon it. Workers organize their days around it. Entire settlements exist because of it. And every morning people come to its banks. The woman joins others already gathered near the water. Some stand quietly. Others kneel beside the river. Clay jars wait in rows. The surface of the Nile moves gently. Soft ripples spread outward. The water appears calm today. That is welcome news. Stronger currents can make collection more difficult. Nearby, an elderly man lowers a jar carefully into the river. He moves slowly. Years of labor have left their mark upon him. His hands are rough. His shoulders bend slightly forward. Yet he has performed this same task thousands of times. The movement requires little thought now. Lower. Fill. Lift. Balance. Carry. The rhythm belongs to daily life itself. Around him, more villagers arrive. The gathering slowly grows. Some exchange greetings. Others remain quiet, still waking from sleep. The first birds begin singing. One call becomes two. Then several more. The sounds drift across the water. The eastern sky brightens slightly. Morning approaches. The woman kneels. She places her jar near the river's edge. The clay feels cool. Carefully she dips it into the water. The jar fills with a gentle bubbling sound. For a moment she watches the river flow around her hands. Perhaps she has done this every morning for years. Perhaps she barely notices the action anymore. Yet there is something peaceful about these moments. The world remains suspended between night and day. Work has not fully begun. The heat has not yet arrived. Only the river moves steadily onward. When the jar is full, she lifts it. Now it feels much heavier. Water is precious. Water is necessary. Water also weighs a great deal. Many Egyptians developed remarkable strength simply through the routines of daily life. A full jar requires balance and practice. The woman adjusts her grip. Nearby, another villager places a rolled cloth upon her head. The cloth creates a cushion. Then, with practiced ease, she lifts a large vessel onto the top of her head. Her posture remains straight. Her steps remain steady. Years of repetition have transformed the difficult into the ordinary. The Nile bank becomes busier. Children begin appearing with their parents. Young boys carry smaller containers. Girls help steady jars. Families often work together from an early age. Children learned by watching. Then by helping. Then by eventually performing the tasks themselves. One young boy yawns as he walks beside his mother. His eyes remain heavy with sleep. The jar he carries is much smaller than hers. Even so, he takes the responsibility seriously. Morning water collection is not a special event. It is simply part of life. The sky continues brightening. Soft shades of blue replace the darkness. The stars slowly disappear. Along the river, fishermen prepare for their own day. Small boats rest near the shore. Some are made from wood. Others from bundled reeds. Fishing has provided food for Egyptian communities for countless generations. Several fishermen check nets by the growing light. Their movements remain calm and unhurried. One man sits quietly inside his boat. He watches the river while waiting for enough daylight to begin. The Nile has taught patience. The river moves according to its own rhythm. People learn to move with it. Farther downstream, another group arrives carrying larger containers. Perhaps they serve a wealthier household. Perhaps they work for a temple. Temples required enormous amounts of water every day. Cleaning floors. Preparing food. Maintaining sacred spaces. Washing ritual objects. Many workers spent their mornings transporting water for these purposes. The labor could be exhausting. Yet before sunrise it felt easier. The air remained cool. The sunlight remained gentle. The day had not yet become heavy. As dawn spreads across the landscape, details emerge everywhere. Palm trees stand clearly against the brightening sky. Fields reveal neat rows of crops. White birds move across shallow waters near the shore. The river itself changes color. Silver reflections become soft gold. A warm glow appears across the surface. Morning has arrived. The village behind the river now awakens more fully. Smoke begins rising from cooking fires. Bakers prepare ovens. Households start grinding grain. Animals become active. The scent of fresh bread slowly drifts through the air. For many families, water collected from the Nile will soon be used in these morning tasks. Inside one home, flour waits in a large bowl. Water will transform it into dough. Later the dough will become bread. Simple bread formed the foundation of daily meals throughout ancient Egypt. Most people ate it every day. Its preparation began with water. In another home, a woman pours fresh water into clay vessels used for storage. The containers stand against the wall where the interior remains relatively cool. Keeping water available throughout the day is important. The heat of Egypt can be relentless. As the sun climbs higher, thirst arrives quickly. Children need water. Workers need water. Animals need water. Every jar matters. Outside, the roads become busier. People carrying filled vessels return from the river. Their sandals stir small clouds of dust. Some travel alone. Others move in groups. The pace remains steady. No one wants to spill precious water. Balance is everything. Years of experience show in every careful step. An older woman walks with perfect posture. A heavy jar rests atop her head. Her hands do not even touch it. The vessel remains steady as though it belongs there. Younger women sometimes watch and learn from such skill. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes many mornings beside the Nile. The sunlight grows warmer. Golden light spreads across mud brick walls. Shadows shorten. Birds become louder. The sleepy quiet of dawn slowly transforms into the busy rhythm of another Egyptian day. Yet the memory of those early moments beside the river lingers. The cool air. The soft light. The gentle sound of flowing water. The calm gathering of villagers before the heat arrives. For thousands of ordinary Egyptians, these moments mark the true beginning of each day. And as the sun continues rising above the fertile lands of the Nile, countless other journeys toward the water are still taking place along villages far beyond the horizon. The river stretches onward. Village after village. Field after field. Life after life. And everywhere, people begin their mornings in much the same way, stepping quietly through the fading darkness toward the water that sustains their world. The sunlight continues to spread across the Nile Valley. What had been a cool gray world before dawn now slowly turns golden. The river reflects the morning sky. Palm leaves shimmer in the gentle light. The first warmth of the day settles softly onto the earth. Along countless stretches of the Nile, the task of collecting water is still underway. Not everyone arrives before sunrise. Some households send a second trip later in the morning. Larger families often require more water than a single journey can provide. Workshops consume great amounts as well. Bakers, brewers, potters, and textile workers all depend on a steady supply. The river remains busy. At one village farther north, a young servant makes his way down a narrow path toward the water. He carries 2 clay jars suspended from a wooden pole resting across his shoulders. The pole bends slightly under the weight. Each step requires balance. The jars sway gently. The movement has become familiar to him. He has followed this route nearly every morning for years. The path winds between small homes built from mud bricks dried beneath the sun. Their walls show signs of age. Some have been repaired many times. Fresh patches of mud stand beside older sections darkened by years of weather. Children sit outside one doorway. They are still waking. A mother combs dust from a little girl's hair. Nearby, someone kneels over a grinding stone. The slow sound of grain being crushed drifts through the air. The servant continues toward the river. As he walks, he passes a donkey carrying baskets filled with vegetables. A merchant leads the animal toward a nearby market. The day is only beginning, yet work has already started. Such was the rhythm of life in ancient Egypt. Many people rose before the sun. The hottest hours often arrived long before afternoon. Tasks completed early felt easier. The servant reaches the riverbank. Already dozens of people are gathered there. Some stand in small groups. Others kneel beside the water. A fisherman untangles part of a net while waiting for a companion. 2 boys skip stones across a quiet section near the shore. The stones bounce several times before disappearing beneath the surface. No one scolds them. The morning feels peaceful. There is still time before the busiest hours arrive. The servant sets down his containers. For a moment he stretches his shoulders. Carrying water every day creates strength, but it also creates weariness. Muscles grow accustomed to the effort. Even so, the work remains demanding. He kneels and begins filling the jars. The water slips inside with a soft gurgling sound. Tiny ripples spread across the river. The Nile responds to every movement. Nothing remains completely still. Even on the calmest mornings, the water continues its endless journey. As the servant works, a gentle breeze moves across the river. It carries the scent of wet reeds and damp earth. These smells are familiar to everyone who lives nearby. The fertile black soil of Egypt owes its existence to the Nile. Each year, flooding leaves behind rich deposits of silt. The earth drinks deeply from the river. Fields flourish because of it. Without the Nile, this landscape would be very different. Beyond the cultivated land waits the desert. Its sands stretch far into the distance. Dry hills shimmer beneath the growing sunlight. The contrast is remarkable. Life gathers close to the water. Villages, farms, workshops, temples, and roads all cluster around the river's path. The servant lifts his filled jars. Immediately the pole feels much heavier. Water has transformed the burden. He settles the weight across his shoulders and begins the walk home. Each step feels deliberate. The jars sway gently beside him. The road climbs slightly away from the river. Soon he joins others carrying water in the same direction. A woman balances a vessel on her head. An older man carries a smaller container in each hand. A pair of teenage brothers work together, sharing the load between them. The procession feels almost timeless. Morning after morning. Year after year. Generation after generation. The same paths are worn into the earth. The same river supplies the same villages. The same routines shape daily life. Back in the village, the day becomes busier. A baker prepares his oven. The smell of smoke rises into the air. Stacks of fuel wait nearby. Wood is valuable. Dried reeds, straw, and animal dung often help keep ovens burning. The baker pours fresh Nile water into a mixing bowl. The water joins flour made from grain harvested months earlier. Strong hands begin kneading the dough. Slowly the mixture transforms. Soon loaves will bake inside the hot oven. Before long, the scent of fresh bread will spread through the streets. Many villagers will begin their meals with that bread. Water from the Nile has become part of it. Not far away, another household begins preparing beer. Ancient Egyptian beer was a common drink consumed by many people throughout society. It differed greatly from modern varieties. Often thick and nutritious, it provided both hydration and calories. The brewing process also depends upon water. Clay vessels line the walls. Ingredients are measured carefully. The work proceeds slowly and steadily. Elsewhere, a potter starts his day. His workshop sits near the edge of the village. Stacks of finished jars stand in neat rows. Some will hold grain. Others oil. Many will eventually carry water from the Nile. The potter's hands are stained with clay. The earth he works with must be mixed properly. Water helps transform dry material into something useful. He pours a small amount into a pile of clay. Then he begins kneading. His fingers press and fold. The mixture softens. Gradually it becomes smooth and workable. The process is repetitive. The motions are familiar. Many crafts in ancient Egypt relied upon patience more than speed. Hours pass in steady labor. The potter understands this rhythm well. Outside, the sun climbs higher. The air warms noticeably. Shadows shorten. More villagers seek shade whenever possible. The cool comfort of dawn begins fading away. Those who completed difficult tasks early are grateful. Near the river, traffic continues. Water collection never truly ends. New arrivals appear while others return home. A temple servant approaches carrying polished containers. The temple stands on slightly higher ground overlooking the settlement. Its walls glow softly beneath the sunlight. Inside, priests and workers have already begun their duties. Sacred spaces require constant care. Floors must be cleaned. Offerings prepared. Gardens watered. Storage vessels filled. The temple servant walks carefully. Every movement reflects training and responsibility. He reaches the river and pauses briefly. The Nile shines before him. Sunlight dances across the surface. Small fish break the water occasionally before disappearing again. Birds hunt along the shore. The servant lowers his containers. For a few moments there is only the sound of flowing water. The river does not hurry. It does not resist. It simply continues. Many Egyptians viewed the Nile with deep respect. Its presence touched every corner of life. The annual floods, the fertile soil, the transportation routes, the fish, the water itself all depended upon this river. Each morning's collection reminded people of that connection. The servant fills his containers. Drops of water run down the smooth clay surfaces. The vessels grow heavier. He lifts them carefully and begins the journey back toward the temple. The path winds through fields. Farmers are already at work. Some inspect irrigation channels. Others tend crops. The fields stretch beneath the brightening sky. Green plants contrast sharply against the brown earth. Water management occupies much of a farmer's attention. The Nile provides abundance, but that abundance must be guided and maintained. Small channels carry water where it is needed. Banks require repair. Flow must be controlled. Agriculture demands constant effort. A farmer pauses from his work. Sweat already forms on his forehead despite the early hour. He drinks from a small container filled that morning. The water feels cool, refreshing, necessary. Then he returns to his task. Hours of labor still lie ahead. The temple servant continues walking. The sounds of the village surround him. Voices drift through open doorways. Animals call from shaded enclosures. Hammers strike wood in a carpenter's workshop. The rhythmic sound echoes across the settlement. Daily life unfolds steadily. No single activity dominates. Instead, countless small tasks combine to sustain the community. Water touches nearly all of them. Inside one home, a woman washes vegetables. In another, someone cleans a floor. Elsewhere, cloth is soaked before weaving. A child rinses dusty hands. A cook prepares soup. Every action depends upon water gathered from the river. The temple servant reaches the entrance. Massive walls rise before him. The stone feels warm already. Workers move through shaded courtyards carrying supplies. The servant joins them. His containers will soon become part of another day's routine. Meanwhile, far beyond this village, similar scenes unfold all along the Nile. Thousands of settlements wake beneath the Egyptian sun. Thousands of families carry water. Thousands of workers begin their daily labor. The river connects them all. Some villages are small. Others are large. Some stand near bustling trade routes. Others rest quietly among distant fields. Yet each morning people travel toward the same source of life. The same flowing water. The same familiar banks. The same gentle sound of the Nile moving through the land. By mid-morning, the heat grows stronger. The air becomes heavier. Dust rises more easily from the roads. Workers seek brief moments of shade when they can find it. Children play beneath awnings. Animals gather near shelter. The cool freshness of dawn feels increasingly distant. Still, memories of the early river remain. The calm water. The pale sky. The quiet footsteps toward the shore. Those peaceful moments linger beneath the busyness of the day. For many Egyptians, dawn offered one of the most comfortable periods of the entire day. The world felt softer then. Less demanding. The river seemed almost dreamlike beneath the fading stars. Now the sunlight shines brightly overhead. The village hums with activity. Yet somewhere beyond the houses and fields, the Nile continues its endless journey. Its waters glide past reeds and villages. Past fishermen and farmers. Past temples and workshops. Past sleeping homes that will awaken tomorrow before dawn. And as the day slowly unfolds across ancient Egypt, countless clay jars filled during the quiet morning hours continue serving the needs of ordinary lives beside the river. As the morning stretches toward midday, the Nile continues to shine beneath the Egyptian sun. The river that had seemed soft and silver before dawn now glows with brighter light. Gentle ripples catch the sunlight and scatter it across the water. Along the banks, reeds sway slowly. White birds stand motionless in the shallows, watching for fish beneath the surface. The cool hours have passed. The warmth that began as a pleasant touch during sunrise has steadily grown stronger. Across the villages of ancient Egypt, people feel the change. Farmers wipe sweat from their brows. Builders pause briefly in the shade of unfinished walls. Potters work beneath simple coverings made from reeds and cloth. Even the animals seek cooler places when they can find them. The Nile remains one of the few sources of relief. Its water offers comfort in a land where heat is a constant companion. Near a village farther south, a young girl walks carefully along a narrow path carrying a small clay vessel. She is not making the first journey of the day. That happened before sunrise when she accompanied her mother. This trip is different. The household requires more water. The morning supply has already begun disappearing into countless daily tasks. Cooking, washing, cleaning, mixing dough, providing drinks for family members returning from work. Water moves through every hour of life. The girl walks beneath the growing sun. Dust gathers around her sandals. The path feels warm beneath her feet. She passes fields where workers bend over rows of crops. Their movements are slow and steady. No one wastes energy. The heat encourages patience. Everything happens at a measured pace. The girl eventually reaches the river. The Nile appears wider here. Palm trees line parts of the shore. Fishing boats drift lazily near the banks. Their reflections ripple gently across the water. She pauses for a moment. Perhaps she enjoys the cooler breeze coming from the river. Perhaps she simply watches the sunlight moving across the surface. There is no hurry. Life beside the Nile often follows the rhythm of the water itself. Steady. Predictable. Unrushed. She kneels and fills her vessel. The familiar bubbling sound rises from the jar. The water feels cool against her hands. For a brief moment, the river provides relief from the growing heat. Then she stands and begins the journey home. Around her, other villagers perform the same task. A woman balances two containers. An older boy carries a large jar against his shoulder. A servant from a wealthy household supervises several workers transporting water together. Each person follows a familiar routine. Many have performed these actions so often that the movements require little thought. Years of repetition create skill. Skill creates efficiency. And efficiency helps people endure long days of labor. Back in the village, midday approaches. The sunlight becomes almost white. Shadows retreat beneath walls and trees. The air feels heavier now. A baker sits briefly outside his workshop. The morning's bread has already been prepared. The ovens remain warm. The scent of baked grain lingers in the air. Nearby stands a large water jar collected earlier from the Nile. Its surface is cool compared to the sunlit walls around it. The baker drinks slowly. He knows the day is far from over. There will still be work to complete before evening arrives. Across ancient Egypt, people learned to respect the heat. Ignoring it can bring exhaustion. Working too quickly can drain precious energy. The wisest workers move steadily. They pace themselves. They pause when necessary. They seek shade whenever possible. And throughout the day, water remains essential. In one small home, an elderly woman rests near an open doorway. A faint breeze enters from outside. The coolness is slight, but welcome. Beside her sits a clay jar filled that morning. She pours a little water into a cup. The movement is slow and careful. Every drop matters. Water is abundant compared to the surrounding desert, yet collecting and carrying it requires effort. Nothing should be wasted. The woman drinks quietly. Outside, the sounds of village life continue. Children laugh somewhere nearby. A donkey brays. A carpenter's hammer strikes wood at regular intervals. The village breathes and moves beneath the afternoon sun. Not far away, a group of workers repairs part of an irrigation channel. The channel carries Nile water toward agricultural fields. Its walls require constant maintenance. Small cracks can grow larger. Sections can weaken. Silt must be cleared. The work is never truly finished. One worker kneels beside the channel. His hands are covered in damp earth. The mud feels cool compared to the air around him. He shapes and smooths the bank carefully. Water management is among the most important responsibilities in Egyptian agriculture. Without proper channels, crops suffer. Without crops, entire communities struggle. The worker understands this. His labor may seem ordinary, yet it helps sustain countless lives. As the afternoon deepens, many people begin thinking about evening. The hottest part of the day often feels longest. Time itself seems slower beneath the blazing sun. The distant horizon shimmers. Birdsong becomes less frequent. Even the village animals appear quieter. Yet the Nile continues unchanged. Its waters flow with calm certainty. Morning, midday, evening, night. The river remains. A fisherman sits beneath a simple shelter near the shore. His boat rests nearby. The morning catch has already been sorted. Some fish have been sold. Others will feed his family. For a while he simply watches the river. The breeze from the water cools his face. The sound of small waves touching the shore fills the silence. There is something deeply soothing about these moments. No urgent task demands attention. No heavy load rests upon his shoulders. Only the river moves before him. Across the water, another village appears in the distance. Its houses seem small beneath the bright sky. Tiny figures move along the shoreline. Even from far away, familiar routines are visible. People collecting water. People washing clothes. People tending boats. The same patterns repeat all along the Nile. Every settlement depends upon the river. Every family builds part of its daily routine around the water. As the afternoon slowly begins its journey toward evening, shadows lengthen once again. The change is subtle at first. A wall casts a slightly darker line. A tree creates a larger patch of shade. The fierce brightness softens little by little. Workers notice immediately. The return of longer shadows feels comforting. Relief is coming. The most intense heat will not last forever. A farmer walking home from the fields carries an empty water container. His morning supply is gone. Hours of labor beneath the sun have drained it completely. Dust covers his sandals. His clothing bears marks of the day's work. Yet his pace remains steady. Soon he will visit the river again. Many Egyptians make more than one trip each day. Morning collection provides the foundation. Additional journeys fill whatever needs remain. The farmer follows a familiar route. Fields stretch around him. The scent of dry earth rises from the ground. Occasionally a breeze stirs the crops. The sound resembles a soft whisper. Ahead, the Nile glimmers between clusters of palm trees. The sight brings comfort. It always has. Generation after generation has looked toward the river with the same quiet appreciation. The farmer reaches the bank. The afternoon light creates long reflections across the water. The river seems calmer now. Perhaps it only feels that way because the day itself is slowing. Nearby, several women fill jars while talking quietly together. A boy washes dust from his feet. Two fishermen prepare nets for tomorrow morning. Life continues in gentle rhythms. No single moment feels extraordinary. Yet together they form the fabric of daily existence. The farmer kneels and lowers his container into the river. Cool water rushes inside. The familiar sound echoes softly. For a moment he remains still. His hands rest against the clay. The water touches his fingers. The breeze moves across the surface. The heat of the day feels distant. These brief pauses beside the Nile become small moments of peace in otherwise demanding lives. The farmer lifts the filled container. The weight settles comfortably against his shoulder. Years of experience have taught him how to carry it efficiently. He begins walking home. The village awaits. Cooking fires will soon be lit. Families will gather. The long day will gradually come to an end. Along the roads, more people move toward the river while others return from it. The flow resembles the Nile itself. A steady movement. Continuous. Unhurried. As the sun lowers farther in the sky, the landscape changes color. Golden light spreads across the fields. Mud brick walls glow warmly. Palm trees cast elegant shadows. The harsh brightness of midday becomes softer and gentler. Birds return to the riverbanks. Their calls drift through the evening air. The world feels calmer now. A little quieter. A little slower. The same river that welcomed villagers before dawn now accompanies them toward night. Soon families will sit together outside their homes. Children will grow sleepy. Workers will stretch tired muscles after long hours of labor. The scent of bread, vegetables, and cooking fires will drift through the settlements. Water gathered from the Nile will be part of every meal. Part of every household. Part of every evening routine. And as the golden sunlight continues fading across the river, the Nile carries its ancient waters onward through the heart of Egypt, past countless villages where ordinary people slowly prepare for another peaceful night beside the life-giving river. The afternoon slowly gives way to evening. Across the Nile Valley, the fierce brightness of the day begins to soften. The sunlight no longer presses heavily upon the land. Instead, a warm golden glow spreads across the fields, the villages, and the river itself. The change feels almost like a long exhale. Workers notice it immediately. Farmers straighten their backs after hours spent tending crops. Builders pause to wipe dust from their arms. Merchants arrange the last of their goods before returning home. Potters inspect their drying vessels beneath gentler light. The hardest part of the day is ending. Along the riverbanks, the Nile reflects the colors of the evening sky. Gold becomes amber. Amber slowly deepens toward orange. The water moves quietly, carrying those colors downstream. A fisherman rows toward shore. His small boat glides through calm water. The wooden oar dips gently beneath the surface. Tiny circles spread outward with each stroke. He has spent most of the day on the river. Now his shoulders ache. His hands feel rough from ropes and nets. The evening breeze touches his face. It feels pleasant after the long heat. Nearby, another fisherman pulls a boat onto the muddy bank. Together they work without speaking much. Many laborers become quiet near the end of the day. Not because they are unhappy. Simply because they are tired. The body asks for rest. The mind grows still. Silence becomes comfortable. Farther inland, a family prepares the evening meal. Their home stands among many similar houses built from mud bricks and reeds. The walls hold some of the day's warmth. Inside, shadows lengthen across the floor. A woman pours water from a storage jar into a cooking vessel. The water had been collected earlier from the Nile. Now it helps prepare the final meal of the day. The children sit nearby. One leans against the wall. Another watches the small cooking fire. The scent of bread and vegetables begins filling the room. Outside, voices drift through the village. People are returning home. The roads become busier once again. Yet this movement feels different from the activity of morning. Morning footsteps carry expectation. Evening footsteps carry relief. Workers know their labor is nearly finished. The cool hours of night are approaching. An elderly man walks slowly toward the river carrying an empty container. This is his final trip of the day. The village will need fresh water tomorrow morning. He prefers preparing now. The evening air makes the journey easier. His pace is steady. The road is familiar. He has walked it for decades. Perhaps he first followed this path as a child. Perhaps his parents carried water beside him. Perhaps their parents did the same before them. The routine stretches backward through countless generations. The Nile has always been there. Always flowing. Always waiting at the end of the path. As he approaches the river, he notices others making similar journeys. A young servant balances 2 jars upon a wooden yoke. A mother walks beside her daughter. Several boys carry smaller vessels. The riverbank gathers people once more. Not as many as before dawn. Not as many as during the busy hours of morning. But enough to create a quiet sense of community. The elderly man reaches the shore. The water glows beneath the lowering sun. Reeds rustle softly nearby. Birds settle into nesting places. The entire landscape seems to be preparing for rest. He kneels carefully. His joints are stiff from age. The movement takes longer than it once did. Still, experience guides him. The jar enters the water. A gentle bubbling sound follows. The vessel slowly fills. He watches the ripples spread across the surface. For a few moments there is nothing else to do. Nothing else to think about. Only the river. Only the evening light. Only the peaceful sound of flowing water. Across ancient Egypt, many people share similar moments. A servant pauses while carrying water back toward a temple. A farmer drinks from a clay cup before beginning the walk home. A child sits beside the river watching fish disturb the surface. Simple moments. Quiet moments. The kind that rarely appear in grand histories. Yet they fill most of human life. The Nile witnesses them all. As the sun lowers further, long shadows stretch across the land. Palm trees paint dark patterns over dusty roads. The fields take on deeper shades of gold. The river becomes darker in places, reflecting both sky and shadow. A cool breeze arrives. People welcome it. After a long Egyptian day, even a slight drop in temperature feels comforting. Near one village, a group of women gathers around a communal area. Their water jars rest nearby. Some talk softly while preparing food. Others simply enjoy sitting together after work. The conversations move slowly. No one seems rushed. Children play nearby. Their laughter rises occasionally above the gentle sounds of the evening. A dog wanders through the village. A donkey shakes its head. Smoke drifts upward from cooking fires. The scents of bread, onions, herbs, and roasting food mingle in the air. Night is still some distance away. Yet its arrival feels certain. The day is gently folding itself closed. At a larger settlement farther north, workers finish unloading supplies from river boats. The boats had traveled along the Nile carrying grain, pottery, and other goods. Trade moves constantly upon the river. The Nile serves not only as a source of water but also as a highway connecting communities. Boatmen secure ropes. Cargo is stacked carefully. Records are noted by scribes. Even here, water remains central to every activity. Workers drink it. Cooks use it. Craftsmen rely upon it. The river supports everything around it. A young scribe sits outside a building as daylight fades. His work is complete for now. A clay cup rests beside him. Nearby stands a large storage jar filled earlier that day. The scribe watches people moving through the village. Families gathering. Laborers returning home. Children growing sleepy. The scene is ordinary. And because it is ordinary, it is beautiful. Most people who lived in ancient Egypt were not kings. They were not famous generals. They were not remembered in monuments. They were farmers, builders, fishermen, bakers, servants, potters, weavers, and laborers. Their lives were shaped by routines. And among those routines, collecting water from the Nile remained one of the most important. The sun approaches the horizon. Its light becomes softer still. Golden colors deepen into orange and rose. Clouds, where they exist, catch the fading glow. The Nile reflects every change. The river seems almost painted by the sky. People pause to appreciate the beauty, even if only briefly. Perhaps they do not think about it consciously. Perhaps they simply feel it. A sense of calm. A feeling that the difficult work of the day has ended. The promise of rest ahead. Near the riverbank, the elderly man who filled his jar earlier begins walking home. The vessel feels heavy. Yet the evening coolness makes the burden easier to bear. His sandals press gently into the dusty path. Birdsong slowly fades around him. The village lights begin appearing. Not bright lights. Only the small flicker of oil lamps inside homes. Tiny points of warmth in the growing darkness. One by one they emerge. Like stars appearing before night has fully arrived. The old man passes fields now resting beneath evening shadows. Tomorrow they will demand labor once again. Tomorrow the sun will rise. Tomorrow countless people will walk back to the Nile. But for now, the day is ending. The river continues flowing quietly beside the land. Its waters carry reflections of the fading sky. Its banks hold the footprints of those who visited throughout the day. The morning collectors. The fishermen. The servants. The children. The farmers. The merchants. All have come and gone. Yet the Nile remains. Patient. Steady. Unchanging in its purpose. As darkness slowly spreads across ancient Egypt, households settle into evening routines. Meals are shared. Stories are exchanged. Tired muscles begin to relax. Water jars stand ready for the night and the coming dawn. And beyond the villages, beneath the deepening colors of sunset, the ancient river glides onward through the quiet land, preparing to welcome another generation of early morning footsteps when the stars once again shine over the Nile. The last colors of sunset slowly fade from the western horizon. Orange becomes amber. Amber softens into deep violet. Then the sky gradually settles into the rich blue of approaching night. Across the Nile Valley, evening deepens with gentle certainty. The heat that ruled the day begins to loosen its grip upon the land. Warm air still lingers around the mud brick walls, but cooler currents move quietly across the river. Palm fronds sway softly in the darkness. Reeds whisper along the shoreline. One by one, the sounds of labor disappear. The hammering from workshops grows silent. The calls of merchants fade away. The movement of workers returning home comes to an end. Now another rhythm takes over. The rhythm of rest. Inside a small house near the riverbank, a family gathers around the evening meal. A clay lamp burns nearby. Its small flame flickers gently against the walls. The room glows with soft golden light. Shadows move slowly across baskets, jars, and woven mats. The day has left everyone tired. The father spent hours tending fields. The mother carried water, prepared meals, and managed countless household tasks. The children helped where they could. Now they sit together. The atmosphere feels calm, comfortable. The simple pleasure of being indoors after a long day beneath the Egyptian sun. Near the doorway stand several water jars collected throughout the day. Their rounded shapes cast curved shadows against the wall. Some remain nearly full. Others have already been used. Tomorrow morning, they will once again need replenishing. Such thoughts are not burdensome. They are simply part of life. As natural as sunrise. As familiar as breathing. Outside, the village grows quieter. People sit near their homes enjoying the cooler air. Conversations drift through the darkness. Neighbors speak softly. Children fight sleep as long as they can. An elderly woman tells a story from memory. A young boy listens while leaning against his father's shoulder. The stars begin appearing overhead. First a few. Then many more. Soon the sky becomes crowded with them. Without bright lights to hide them, the stars shine brilliantly above ancient Egypt. They stretch from one horizon to the other. Countless points of light suspended above the sleeping world. The Nile reflects some of them. Tiny shimmering patterns dance upon the water. The river seems darker now. Mysterious in a peaceful way. Not frightening. Simply quiet. The world feels larger at night. More distant. More still. Along the riverbank, a fisherman finishes securing his boat. The vessel rocks gently against the shore. Tomorrow he will return before sunrise. Tomorrow the river will once again become his workplace. For now, he checks the ropes one final time. The knots hold firm. Satisfied, he begins walking home. The path is familiar even in darkness. Moonlight helps guide him. The smell of wet reeds follows him from the shore. Nearby, another boatman rests beside a small fire. The flames crackle softly. Their glow reflects faintly upon his face. He stares toward the river. Not thinking about anything in particular. Simply watching. Simply resting. The Nile encourages such moments. Its constant movement has a calming effect. The water never rushes. Never becomes impatient. It continues steadily through the darkness just as it did beneath the sun. Farther inland, a potter sits outside his workshop. The day's labor is finished. Rows of completed jars stand nearby. Some are drying. Others have already hardened beneath the sun. Among them are vessels destined for a familiar purpose. Water collection. Soon they will travel into homes throughout the village. Soon they will accompany families to the riverbanks. Soon they will carry Nile water along dusty roads before dawn. The potter studies them quietly. His hands are rough from years of work. Tiny traces of clay remain beneath his fingernails. Tomorrow he will shape more. The cycle never truly ends. Yet there is comfort in that. Routine creates stability. The people of ancient Egypt understood this deeply. Days changed. Seasons changed. Floodwaters rose and fell. Children grew into adults. But certain rhythms remained. The Nile flowed. The sun rose. Water was collected. Bread was baked. Families gathered at night. These patterns connected one generation to the next. Inside another home, A young servant prepares for sleep. His body feels heavy after carrying water and supplies throughout the day. His shoulders ache slightly. His feet are sore. Yet exhaustion carries a certain satisfaction. The work is done. Nothing more is required tonight. He lies down upon a woven mat. Nearby, an oil lamp burns quietly. The flame grows smaller as fuel is consumed. The room darkens. Outside, insects sing their nighttime songs. The servant closes his eyes. Soon he is asleep. Many others throughout the village are doing the same. The pace of life slows even further. The roads empty. The workshops remain dark. Cooking fires fade into glowing embers. Silence spreads gradually through the settlement. Only a few people remain awake. A guard watches over stored grain. A boatman tends a small fire. A mother comforts a restless child. Most of the village sleeps. The Nile remains awake. Moonlight stretches across the water. The river glides through the darkness. It passes fields now resting beneath the stars. It passes silent docks. It passes villages where oil lamps flicker faintly behind small windows. The river sees all of it. The quiet. The rest. The peaceful stillness that arrives after labor. Hours pass. The moon climbs higher. The air grows cooler. The scent of damp earth drifts inland from the river banks. Somewhere among the reeds, birds settle deeper into sleep. Small animals move cautiously through the darkness. The desert beyond the fertile valley lies silent beneath the stars. The contrast between river and desert remains remarkable. Life gathers around the Nile. Always has. Always will. Even now, while most people sleep, the river continues nourishing the land. Water seeps into soil. Moisture lingers among the fields. The great cycle never stops. Near midnight, an elderly farmer wakes briefly. Perhaps a sound disturbed him. Perhaps age simply makes sleep lighter than before. He sits quietly for a moment. The house is dark. Everyone else remains asleep. He reaches for a small cup. A little water remains from the day's collection. The water feels cool. Refreshing. He drinks slowly. Then he listens. Nothing. Only distant insects. Only the faint whisper of wind. Only the calm presence of night. Satisfied, he lies down once more. Sleep returns quickly. Outside, the stars continue their silent journey across the sky. Ancient Egyptians often looked upward during such nights. The heavens offered both beauty and familiarity. Generations learned the patterns of the stars. Farmers, sailors, priests, and travelers all watched them. The sky became part of daily life just as surely as the Nile itself. Tonight the stars shine brightly over the valley. Their reflections shimmer upon the river. The water carries those reflections south and north, depending upon the current and the viewer's eye. The scene is peaceful beyond words. A quiet world illuminated by moonlight and memory. As the night continues, temperatures fall a little more. The coolness settles across rooftops and pathways. Mud brick walls slowly release the warmth stored during the day. The village breathes softly in its sleep. Hours drift by unnoticed. The moon begins its slow descent. Darkness deepens before the approach of dawn. This is often the quietest time of all. Even the insects seem softer. Even the breeze grows gentler. The world feels suspended between yesterday and tomorrow. Yet tomorrow is already approaching. Far beyond the eastern horizon, invisible changes are beginning. The first hints of morning still remain hidden. No light appears yet. No birds sing. No footsteps sound upon the roads. But dawn is coming. And when it arrives, countless ordinary people will once again rise from their beds. They will step onto cool floors. They will lift clay jars. They will leave sleeping homes beneath fading stars. And they will make their way toward the Nile. The same river. The same paths. The same gentle task that has begun countless days before. For now, however, ancient Egypt remains wrapped in darkness. The villages sleep peacefully. The fields rest. The boats drift quietly against their moorings. And beneath a sky crowded with stars, the Nile flows onward through the night, carrying its calm waters toward another silent morning. The deepest hours of night settle gently over the Nile Valley. The villages sleep beneath a blanket of darkness and stars. The moon hangs low above the horizon now, its pale light washing softly across rooftops, fields, and riverbanks. Everything feels still. Not completely silent. The world is never entirely silent. A faint breeze brushes through palm leaves. Water laps quietly against the shore. Somewhere far away, a night bird calls once and then disappears into the darkness again. But compared to the busy hours of daylight, the land feels almost motionless. Inside mud brick homes, families rest after another long day. The baker sleeps. The potter sleeps. The fisherman sleeps. The farmers sleep. Children dream beneath simple linen coverings. Workers recover from hours spent beneath the sun. Their bodies welcome the coolness that only night can bring. Near the river, several fishing boats rock gently in the current. Their ropes creak softly against wooden posts. The Nile continues its endless journey. The water that passed one village hours ago now slips beside another farther downstream. The river never pauses. Never sleeps. Never grows tired. Generation after generation has watched it move through the darkness. And every generation has depended upon it. The stars overhead appear especially bright tonight. Without clouds to hide them, they fill the heavens from one edge of the world to the other. Ancient Egyptians knew these stars well. They saw them every clear night. Farmers noticed them. Boatmen watched them. Travelers followed them. Children learned their patterns from parents and grandparents. For many people, the sky felt as familiar as the river itself. Both remained constant companions throughout life. As the night deepens, the air grows cooler still. The heat stored inside walls and roads slowly fades away. Dust settles. The scent of dry earth softens beneath the moisture drifting inland from the Nile. Along one quiet path leading toward the river, no footprints appear now. The road that carried hundreds of villagers during the day rests peacefully beneath moonlight. Yet in only a few hours it will awaken again. The first travelers will arrive before dawn. They always do. The rhythm repeats endlessly. Night. Morning. Work. Evening. Rest. Then night once more. Near a cluster of homes, an elderly woman sleeps lightly. Age has changed her sleep over the years. She wakes briefly and listens. The house remains dark. Her family breathes quietly nearby. She hears the faint sound of the river in the distance. It has always been there. Even during childhood. Even when she was young enough to carry water jars without effort. Even when her parents made the journey before sunrise. The Nile has accompanied every stage of her life. Eventually she closes her eyes again. Sleep returns gently. Outside, the stars continue their slow movement overhead. Farther south, another village rests beside a wider stretch of river. Palm trees cast long dark shapes across the shoreline. The reeds stand almost motionless. Only the water moves. At the edge of the village, a temple rises above the surrounding buildings. Its walls appear silver beneath moonlight. The courtyards are quiet now. The day's activity has ended. Workers sleep. Servants rest. The great stone structure stands watch over the sleeping settlement. Even here, water remains important. Tomorrow, temple workers will collect fresh supplies from the Nile. The floors will be cleaned. Gardens watered. Food prepared. The familiar routines will begin again. For now, however, everything waits. The night holds the world in stillness. Hours continue to pass. The moon sinks lower. The stars seem even brighter. A cool breeze travels across the water and into the fields. Wheat stalks sway softly. The movement resembles waves upon the river itself. The fertile land rests peacefully beneath the sky. In one small home, a farmer begins to stir. Not because dawn has arrived. Not yet. Years of early rising have trained his body. He wakes before the light. For a moment he remains still upon his woven mat. The room is dark. His family continues sleeping. Outside, the village has not yet awakened. The farmer listens carefully. He can hear insects. He can hear distant water. He can hear the quiet breathing of those around him. Then he closes his eyes once more. There is still time before morning. Sleep comes again. The night continues. The Nile flows onward. The stars watch silently overhead. Eventually, subtle changes begin. Very subtle. So subtle that most sleeping villagers do not notice. The darkness remains. The stars remain. Yet something shifts beyond the eastern horizon. The world starts preparing for dawn. The air feels slightly different. The breeze changes. Birds remain silent, but not for much longer. The night has reached its deepest point. Now it slowly begins moving toward morning. Near the riverbank, a fisherman wakes. His boat waits nearby. Years of routine have made him an early riser. He sits quietly outside his home. No lamp burns. No fire crackles. The stars provide enough light for now. He watches the river. The surface appears dark and smooth. A faint silver path stretches across the water where moonlight touches it. The fisherman enjoys these moments. The world belongs to very few people at this hour. No crowded roads. No busy workshops. No voices calling from market stalls. Only the river. Only the stars. Only the calm silence before another day begins. Soon he stands. His movements are slow and deliberate. There is no reason to hurry. The sun remains hidden. The village still sleeps. He walks toward the shoreline. The ground feels cool beneath his feet. The smell of wet reeds grows stronger. When he reaches the water, he pauses. Tiny ripples move across the surface. A fish breaks the water briefly and disappears. Then everything becomes still again. The fisherman smiles softly to himself. This river has fed his family for years. Perhaps for generations. His father may have stood here before him. His grandfather as well. The same stars overhead. The same water below. The same peaceful moments before dawn. Across the Nile Valley, others begin waking too. A baker opens his eyes. A servant stretches tired muscles. A woman sits up quietly, careful not to disturb sleeping children. The first stirrings of morning spread from house to house. Yet darkness still remains. Oil lamps flicker to life inside a few homes. Their tiny flames create warm circles of light against mud brick walls. Clay jars stand ready near doorways. Empty vessels waiting to be filled. Water from the previous day has been used. Today will require more. It always does. The woman who woke moments ago reaches for one of the jars. Its rough surface feels familiar beneath her hands. She has carried containers like this for most of her life. The weight. The balance. The journey to the river. All of it feels natural. Part of the fabric of existence. She wraps a light garment around herself. Outside, the sky remains dark blue. The stars still shine. But dawn is approaching. Very slowly, the eastern horizon begins to lose some of its darkness. The change is almost impossible to notice at first. Yet it continues. Minute by minute. The world grows lighter. A rooster calls somewhere within the village. Another answers. The first birds begin stirring among the trees. The long night is ending. Doors open quietly. Footsteps appear on dusty roads. A few villagers emerge carrying empty jars. Others follow soon afterward. The familiar procession begins. Not hurried. Not noisy. Simply steady. People moving through cool pre-dawn air toward the river. Toward the Nile. Toward the task that starts so many Egyptian days. The fisherman watches them from the shoreline. He has seen this scene countless times. Every morning unfolds in much the same way. The river welcomes everyone. Farmers. Servants. Children. Mothers. Workers. The elderly. The strong. The tired. All come to the water. The eastern sky brightens a little more. The stars nearest the horizon begin fading. Soft gray light spreads across the fields. Palm trees emerge from the darkness. Village rooftops become visible once again. The world slowly returns. A woman kneels beside the Nile. Her clay jar touches the water. The vessel begins to fill. The familiar bubbling sound rises into the cool morning air. Around her, others do the same. One by one. Jar after jar. Family after family. The river provides what is needed. And as the first hints of sunrise prepare to appear beyond the horizon, the Nile flows calmly through the awakening land, beginning another ordinary morning in ancient Egypt, where countless lives once again revolve around a simple, essential act of collecting water from the river. The first true light of dawn slowly spreads across the Nile Valley. The stars that filled the sky throughout the night begin fading one by one. Their bright reflections disappear from the surface of the river. In their place comes a gentle gray light that softens every shape and every shadow. The world awakens carefully. Nothing happens suddenly. The change arrives slowly, as though the land itself is stretching after a long sleep. Along the banks of the Nile, villagers continue gathering. Their silhouettes move quietly through the cool morning air. Clay jars rest beside their feet. Wooden carrying poles balance across shoulders. Small baskets swing gently as people walk. The familiar sounds of morning return. Sandals brushing against dusty paths. Water filling containers. Birds calling from palm trees. Soft greetings exchanged between neighbors. The Nile listens to all of it. Its waters glide steadily onward beneath the brightening sky. A woman stands near the shore with her young son. The boy is old enough now to help. His small jar is much lighter than hers, but he carries it proudly. The vessel rests against his side as he carefully follows his mother toward the water. He watches everything. The fishermen preparing boats. The older women balancing jars on their heads. The servants filling large containers for wealthier households. The river itself. Children often learn through observation long before they fully understand the responsibilities of adulthood. The boy sees the routines. One day they will become his own. His mother kneels beside the river. She lowers her vessel into the water. The clay jar fills steadily. Tiny ripples spread across the surface. The boy imitates her movements. His smaller container enters the water. For a moment it drifts slightly. He adjusts his grip. The task requires patience. The Nile teaches patience. Almost every daily activity here does. The river rewards steady hands and calm movements. Soon both jars are full. The woman rises smoothly. The boy struggles slightly with the weight of his container. His mother smiles and helps him find a better balance. Together they begin the walk back toward the village. Around them, countless similar journeys unfold. Morning after morning. Year after year. Generation after generation. The roads leading away from the Nile fill with people carrying water. Some walk alone. Others travel in pairs or groups. Many know each other well. The same faces appear almost every day. The same greetings. The same conversations. The riverbank becomes a quiet gathering place before the larger demands of the day begin. The eastern horizon brightens further. Soft pink colors appear above the distant desert. Golden light waits just beyond the edge of the world. The fields begin to reveal themselves fully. Rows of wheat shimmer with dew. Small irrigation channels reflect the growing light. Palm groves cast long shadows across the earth. The beauty of dawn belongs to everyone. Farmers see it. Servants see it. Children see it. Workers carrying heavy jars see it. No special invitation is required. The morning simply unfolds around them. Near a cluster of reeds, several fishermen prepare their boats. One man checks a woven net. His fingers move carefully through the fibers. Years of use have taught him what to look for. A weak section. A damaged knot. A place requiring repair. The work is quiet. Methodical. Much of life beside the Nile follows this pattern. Small tasks completed with patience. Simple responsibilities repeated countless times. The fisherman glances toward the riverbank. Already many villagers have begun their return journeys. Water collected now will soon become part of every household activity. Bread will be mixed. Vegetables washed. Floors cleaned. Animals watered. Children given drinks before beginning their own chores. The day depends upon these early efforts. Without them, everything else becomes more difficult. The first edge of the sun appears above the horizon. A thin line of brilliant gold. The light touches the tops of palm trees first. Then the fields. Then the rooftops. Finally it reaches the river. The Nile transforms instantly. What was gray moments ago now glows with warm color. Gold dances across the surface. Tiny waves catch the light and scatter it in every direction. The river seems alive with brightness. Many villagers notice. Some pause briefly. Others continue walking while quietly appreciating the sight. No one needs to speak about it. The beauty has become familiar. Yet familiar things can still be wonderful. A farmer reaches home carrying 2 containers suspended from a wooden yoke. The journey has left faint marks upon his shoulders. He lowers the jars carefully beside the doorway. His wife greets him. Together they begin organizing the morning's tasks. One container will remain inside. Another may be poured into a larger storage vessel. Nothing is wasted. Every jar has a purpose. Every drop matters. The farmer pauses before beginning field work. The cool morning air remains pleasant. Soon the heat will return. He knows this well. The Nile Valley rewards those who use the early hours wisely. Many difficult jobs are easier before the sun climbs high. Across the village, similar preparations unfold. A baker lights his oven. Thin strands of smoke rise into the brightening sky. A potter mixes clay. A merchant arranges goods for the day's trade. A servant sweeps a courtyard. The village awakens fully. Yet beneath all these activities lies the work already completed. The water has been collected. The day can begin. Near the river, an older woman remains seated beside the shore. Her jars are already full. She is in no hurry to leave. The morning feels pleasant. A cool breeze moves across the water. Birds search among the reeds. Fishing boats drift quietly into deeper channels. For a few moments she simply watches. Perhaps she remembers other mornings. Mornings from years ago. When she carried heavier loads. When her children were young. When her parents still walked these same paths. The Nile has witnessed all of it. Births. Childhoods. Marriages. Old age. Entire lives unfolding beside its waters. The river remains while generations come and go. Eventually the woman stands. She lifts her jar with practiced ease. The vessel settles comfortably into position. Then she begins walking home. The road grows busier now. More people emerge from their houses. Animals are led toward fields. Children run errands for parents. The sleepy quiet of dawn slowly gives way to the steady rhythm of morning. The sun climbs higher. Its warmth becomes noticeable. Shadows shorten slightly. The coolness begins fading. Already workers seek to finish certain tasks before the day grows hotter. In a nearby field, several farmers inspect irrigation channels. The water flowing through them reflects the bright sky above. Maintaining these channels requires constant attention. Small repairs completed today prevent larger problems tomorrow. The farmers work steadily. They understand the value of consistency. The Nile itself provides a lesson in that. Not through speed. Not through force. But through constant, reliable movement. Back in the village, children help carry smaller containers from storage areas to kitchens and workspaces. They learn responsibility little by little. A girl carefully pours water into a cooking vessel. Her mother watches approvingly. The task seems simple. Yet such skills form the foundation of daily life. Knowledge passes quietly from one generation to the next. No grand ceremony marks the moment. Only observation, practice, repetition, and time. The morning continues unfolding. The riverbank gradually becomes less crowded. Most households have completed their first collection of the day. Only a few people remain near the shore. Some wash clothing. Others prepare boats. A handful sit quietly enjoying the breeze before work begins elsewhere. The Nile flows beside them all. Calm. Steady. Endless. The sunlight grows stronger. Golden tones slowly become brighter and whiter. The promise of another warm day settles over the valley. Yet for now, traces of dawn still linger. The memory of cool air. The softness of early light. The peaceful walk to the river beneath fading stars. For countless ordinary Egyptians, these moments mark the true beginning of life each day. Not the rising sun. Not the opening of workshops. Not the first meals. But the journey to the Nile. The simple act of collecting water. The quiet ritual repeated across centuries. And as the morning advances across the fertile lands of Egypt, the great river continues its ancient course, carrying fresh water past villages, fields, temples, and homes, while another day of ordinary life unfolds gently along its banks. The morning settles comfortably across the Nile Valley. The golden colors of dawn gradually soften into the steady brightness of day. The river continues shining beneath the rising sun, its surface broken only by the occasional fish, drifting boat, or gentle ripple carried by the current. Most of the morning water collection has ended now. The roads that led toward the river before sunrise have become quieter. The clay jars stand in homes, workshops, bakeries, and temples. Their contents will slowly disappear throughout the day, poured into cooking pots, drinking cups, storage vessels, and irrigation channels. Already, the water gathered during the cool hours is becoming part of daily life. Inside a small home near the edge of a village, a woman kneels beside a low table. Fresh dough rests before her. She pours a little water into the mixture and begins kneading. Her hands move with practiced confidence. The motion is familiar. Push. Fold. Turn. Press. The rhythm repeats again and again. Outside, sunlight brightens the courtyard. Inside, the cool water helps transform simple ingredients into food for the family. The water came from the Nile only a short time ago. Now it becomes bread. Such transformations happen everywhere. The river enters homes and changes form. It becomes meals. It becomes clean clothing. It becomes cooled skin after a long day. It becomes life itself. Nearby, a young girl carries a small pitcher from one room to another. The vessel feels heavy enough to require both hands. She moves carefully. A single stumble could spill precious water. When she reaches her destination, she pours it into a larger storage jar standing against the wall. The sound of water echoing inside the container fills the room for a moment. Then silence returns. The girl smiles quietly. A small task completed. Another piece of the morning finished. Across the village, a baker works beside a warm oven. The scent of rising bread drifts through the air. His hands are covered lightly in flour. Beside him sits a jar of Nile water collected before dawn. He reaches for it often. Some of the water becomes dough. Some becomes a drink. Some is used to wash his hands between tasks. The baker rarely thinks about how many times he uses water during a single day. The habit is too natural. Too deeply woven into routine. Yet without it, none of the work could continue. Outside, the roads grow busier. Merchants begin setting out goods. Farmers head toward fields. Craftsmen open workshops. The village slowly fills with movement. Donkeys carry supplies. Children run errands. Neighbors exchange greetings. The peaceful stillness of dawn has passed, but traces of it remain in the cool shadows cast by walls and palm trees. Near the river, a fisherman guides his boat into deeper water. The morning breeze moves gently across the Nile. His net lies neatly folded beside him. The day ahead promises work, but for now the river feels calm. He rows steadily. The oars dip into the water with soft splashes. Each stroke sends tiny ripples across the shining surface. The fisherman has known this river since childhood. He understands its moods. Its quiet places. Its hidden channels. Its changing depths. The Nile has taught him lessons no written scroll could fully contain. Patience. Observation. Respect. These lessons arrive slowly over many years. Farther downstream, a group of laborers repairs part of a stone dock. River traffic depends upon such structures. Boats carrying grain, pottery, stone, and countless other goods require places to load and unload. The workers move carefully. Their tools create a steady rhythm of scraping, lifting, and fitting. Nearby stands a large storage vessel filled with water. One laborer pauses to drink. The cool liquid offers relief even though the day remains young. Soon the sun will climb higher. The heat will grow stronger. Everyone knows it. No one speaks about it. It is simply part of life. The Nile Valley follows patterns as predictable as the river itself. Morning coolness. Midday heat. Evening relief. Nighttime rest. Then morning once more. In a larger household closer to a temple, several servants begin cleaning courtyards. Water is carried in smaller containers and sprinkled across dusty surfaces. The moisture helps settle loose dirt. Brooms sweep across the damp ground. The work requires effort, but the results are worth it. Clean spaces feel cooler, more comfortable, more welcoming. One servant pauses and glances toward the river visible in the distance. Sunlight sparkles across the water. From here it seems peaceful, almost effortless. Yet he knows how many daily tasks begin there. The journey, the lifting, the carrying, the balancing of heavy jars. The river gives generously, but receiving its gifts requires labor. Throughout Egypt, countless people understand this relationship. The Nile provides. People work. Together they create life along the valley. Near a field of barley, an older farmer kneels beside an irrigation channel. Water flows slowly through the narrow passage. The farmer studies it carefully. Too little water harms crops. Too much can cause problems as well. The balance matters. He adjusts part of the channel using his hands and a simple tool. The flow changes slightly. Satisfied, he sits back. The water continues onward. The farmer watches it for a moment. The movement feels calming. The Nile never seems rushed. Even when the river is strong, it moves with purpose rather than haste. Perhaps that is why life here often feels slower than in other places. The river sets the pace, and people learn to follow. As the morning advances, sunlight spreads fully across the valley. The cool air begins fading. Warmth settles onto roads and rooftops. Birds become more active near the water. Their reflections flicker briefly on the river's surface before disappearing. Children finish early chores and gather in shaded areas. Some help families. Others play simple games. Their laughter drifts through the village. Not loud. Not disruptive. Just another sound woven into the fabric of daily life. Inside a potter's workshop, fresh clay waits beside several jars of water. The potter sits before his wheel. His hands shape the earth slowly. Water smooths the clay. Water softens rough edges. Water helps transform a lump of mud into something useful. A bowl. A storage vessel. A water jar. Perhaps one of these jars will eventually make the same journey to the Nile hundreds of times. Perhaps a child not yet born will carry it one morning beneath the stars. Objects often outlast the people who create them. The potter understands this. Yet he focuses on the task before him. The clay beneath his fingers. The shape emerging slowly. The steady rhythm of work. By now the village is fully awake. The sleepy atmosphere of dawn has vanished. The day's responsibilities are underway. Still, there remains a sense of order. A sense of continuity. Every person knows what must be done. Every household follows familiar routines. The Nile supports them all. At the edge of the village, a young boy sits beneath a palm tree holding a cup of water. His morning chores are complete for the moment. He drinks slowly. The water tastes fresh. Cooler than the air around him. Beyond the fields, he can see the river shining in the sunlight. He watches a boat drift past. Then another. Life continues moving. Steadily. Quietly. Just as it always has. Hours earlier, the same river reflected stars. Now it reflects the bright blue of the daytime sky. By evening it will reflect sunset. By night it will reflect the moon. The river changes appearance constantly while remaining fundamentally the same. The people living beside it experience something similar. Children become adults. Adults become elders. Generations pass. Yet the daily routines continue. The morning walk to the Nile. The lifting of jars. The careful journey home. The use of water throughout the day. These patterns endure. As the sun climbs a little higher and warmth begins spreading across the fertile valley, the great river continues flowing through the heart of Egypt, carrying its life-giving waters past villages and fields where ordinary people work, rest, learn, and live, all connected by the quiet ritual of collecting water from the Nile every morning. The sun continues its slow climb across the morning sky. Its light grows brighter with each passing hour. The long shadows that stretched across the fields during dawn gradually become shorter. Warmth settles over the Nile Valley like a blanket slowly being unfolded across the land. The day is now fully underway. Throughout the villages lining the river, ordinary life moves forward in countless small ways. A baker removes fresh loaves from an oven. A fisherman checks his nets. A farmer studies the condition of young crops. A potter shapes clay beneath a shaded roof. A merchant arranges goods upon a wooden table. Each task seems separate. Yet they are connected by the same source. Water collected from the Nile during the cool hours of morning. Inside a modest home near the riverbank, a woman pours water into a shallow basin. A small child sits nearby. The child has spent the morning playing outside and now carries dust on hands, feet, and face. The woman dips a cloth into the water. Carefully she wipes away the dirt. The child squirms and laughs softly. The task takes only a few moments. Soon the child runs back outside. The basin remains. A little water has been used. A little remains. Nothing is wasted. Water requires effort. Effort creates appreciation. This understanding is woven deeply into daily life. Outside, the village roads carry a steady flow of people. The busiest hours of morning labor have arrived. Some villagers move toward workshops. Others travel to nearby fields. A few head toward market areas carrying goods for trade. Dust rises beneath countless footsteps. The smell of warm earth fills the air. Overhead, birds circle lazily above the river. The Nile itself seems brighter now. The sunlight dances across its surface. Small waves sparkle like polished metal. From a distance, the river appears almost motionless. Only when watched closely does its endless movement become clear. A young servant walks toward a large household carrying a water jar balanced against one hip. The vessel is not completely full. Its weight is manageable. Even so, the servant walks carefully. The roads are uneven. A stumble could waste valuable water. He has learned balance through years of practice. The body adapts. Muscles strengthen. Movements become natural. Tasks that once felt difficult eventually become routine. This is true for much of life along the Nile. Near the center of the village, a weaver works beneath a shaded shelter. Bundles of flax rest nearby. The air smells faintly of plant fibers and damp cloth. Water plays an important role here as well. The fibers often require soaking and preparation before they can be woven into linen. The weaver dips part of the material into a container. The water darkens the pale strands. Then the careful work continues. Hands move steadily. Threads cross and tighten. Patterns slowly emerge. The process is quiet, almost meditative. Many forms of labor in ancient Egypt followed such rhythms. Repetition. Patience. Attention. Time. Across the fields beyond the village, farmers continue their work beneath the strengthening sun. One man walks beside an irrigation channel. The water flowing through it catches flashes of sunlight. The channel carries the Nile's gift far from the riverbank itself. Without these pathways, crops would struggle. With them, life flourishes. The farmer pauses and kneels beside the flowing water. He studies the current. He checks the banks. He removes a small obstruction. The water immediately moves more freely. Satisfied, he stands. The task is small. Yet thousands of such tasks support the harvests that feed entire communities. Nothing about the work feels grand. But it is important. Very important. Back near the river, a fisherman sits quietly inside his boat. The morning catch has been modest so far. That does not trouble him. The Nile teaches acceptance as much as patience. Some days bring abundance. Others bring less. The river follows its own rhythm. The fisherman understands this. He adjusts a net. He watches the water. He listens to the sounds around him. A bird calls from the reeds. A distant voice drifts from shore. A breeze stirs the surface. The hours pass gently. The boat rocks almost imperceptibly. The world feels calm. On the riverbank, several women gather near a washing area. Clothing rests in baskets beside them. Water splashes softly as fabric is cleaned. Conversations move at an unhurried pace. News is exchanged. Stories are shared. Children wander nearby. Such gatherings create moments of connection amid the demands of daily life. Work and companionship often exist side by side. The Nile provides space for both. The sun climbs higher. Warmth becomes heat. The cooler memories of dawn begin fading. People seek shade more frequently. Palm trees become valuable sources of relief. Mud brick walls offer cooler surfaces than open ground. Work continues, but the pace changes slightly. The body adjusts to the temperature. Experienced workers know how to conserve energy. They move steadily rather than quickly. A hurried pace rarely helps beneath the Egyptian sun. Inside a storage room attached to a larger household, rows of water jars line the walls. Some are sealed. Others remain open for daily use. The room feels noticeably cooler than the outside air. Thick walls help keep the heat away. A servant enters carrying another container. He carefully pours fresh water into one of the larger jars. The sound echoes softly through the room. For a moment the servant pauses. The coolness feels pleasant. Then he returns to his duties. Outside, the heat waits. Elsewhere in the village, a group of children follows an older relative toward the river. Their containers are small. The trip is partly practical and partly educational. Learning begins early. Children observe. Children imitate. Children gradually assume responsibility. One day they will make these journeys alone. Today they practice. The road feels familiar beneath their feet. The Nile glimmers ahead. As they approach the shore, the breeze becomes cooler. The scent of water grows stronger. The children notice fish near the shallows. One points excitedly. Another kneels to watch. Their relative smiles patiently. The river still inspires curiosity even among those who see it every day. Soon the jars are filled. The children begin the walk back. Their containers are lighter than those carried by adults. Even so, the task feels meaningful. Each journey teaches balance, care, responsibility. The same lessons learned by generations before them. Farther north, a boat loaded with grain drifts along the river. The crew works quietly. The cargo will eventually reach another settlement. Trade depends heavily upon the Nile. The river serves not only as a source of water but also as a road connecting distant communities. Boats move steadily between villages, towns, and cities. Goods travel. People travel. News travels. The Nile carries all of it. The boat passes fields shimmering beneath the sunlight. It passes fishermen tending nets. It passes children playing near the shore. The scene changes constantly. Yet certain patterns remain familiar. Everywhere there are water jars. Everywhere there are people working. Everywhere there are signs of lives organized around the river. As the morning gradually approaches midday, the brightness intensifies. The sky becomes a clear expanse of blue. The fields glow beneath the sun. The roads feel warmer beneath sandals. The village hums with activity. Still, beneath all the movement lies a quiet sense of continuity. The water collected before sunrise continues serving countless purposes. Some has already become bread. Some has washed clothes. Some has eased thirst. Some flows through irrigation channels nourishing crops. The journey to the Nile may have ended hours ago, but its effects continue throughout the day. And while workers labor beneath the strengthening sun, the great river flows calmly beside them, carrying fresh water through the heart of Egypt, sustaining villages where ordinary people continue the timeless routines that shape life along the Nile. As the morning slowly approaches midday, the Nile Valley settles into a quieter rhythm. The first energy of dawn has long passed. The excitement of waking, gathering water, preparing meals, and beginning daily work has softened into something steadier. Across the villages that line the river, people focus on the tasks before them. The sun now hangs higher in the sky. Its warmth reaches into courtyards, workshops, and fields. The shadows beneath palm trees become smaller. The coolness of early morning feels like a distant memory. Yet the effects of those dawn hours remain everywhere. Inside homes, water jars stand ready beside walls. In kitchens, meals continue to be prepared. In workshops, craftsmen rely upon water collected before sunrise. The quiet labor of morning supports the entire day. Near one village, a farmer walks slowly along the edge of a field. His sandals press into the soft earth beside an irrigation channel. The water flowing through it glimmers beneath the bright sunlight. Tiny reflections dance across the surface. The farmer pauses and studies the crops. Rows of grain sway gently in a faint breeze. The plants look healthy, strong. The farmer feels satisfied. Water from the Nile has reached them. The fields are receiving what they need. For a few moments he simply stands there, listening. The sound of moving water. The distant calls of birds. the occasional voice carried across the fields. Nothing feels rushed. The day is warm, but calm. Life continues at its familiar pace. Farther away, a potter works beneath a shaded shelter made from wooden beams and reeds. The shade offers welcome relief. Even so, the air feels warmer now than it did earlier. Several completed jars stand nearby. Some are large enough to hold significant amounts of water. Others are smaller, designed for daily household use. The potter studies each vessel carefully. His fingers glide across smooth clay surfaces. He checks for imperfections. Tiny cracks. Uneven edges. Small flaws that might weaken the jar over time. Water containers must be dependable. Families rely upon them every day. A poorly made vessel could break during a journey to the Nile. Such mistakes matter. The potter understands this responsibility. His work may appear simple, yet it affects many lives. Soon one of these jars may travel along a dusty road before dawn. Soon someone may lower it into the cool waters of the river. The potter returns to his wheel. His hands begin shaping another vessel. The cycle continues. Always another jar. Always another morning. Always another journey to the Nile. Meanwhile, near the riverbank, several fishermen gather beneath a cluster of palm trees. The shade creates a pleasant resting place. Their boats drift nearby. Some nets have already been checked. Others lie folded beside them. One fisherman drinks from a clay cup. The water feels cool compared to the surrounding air. The sensation brings immediate relief. For a few moments, the men simply rest. The conversation remains quiet. There is no need for constant talk. The river provides enough company. The breeze moving across the water feels soothing. The fishermen watch sunlight shimmer across the Nile. The surface sparkles endlessly. Every small wave catches the light. Every ripple creates new patterns. The scene never repeats exactly. Yet it always feels familiar. Nearby, children play close to the shore. Their laughter drifts through the air. Some throw small stones into the water. Others chase one another along the edge of the riverbank. An older sister watches them carefully. She carries a small water vessel resting against her hip. Soon she will return home. For now she allows herself a few moments of rest beside the river. Life in ancient Egypt often contains these brief pauses. Short moments between responsibilities. Small opportunities to enjoy the breeze, the water, or the shade. The work never disappears. But neither do these quiet moments. Inside a bakery near the center of a larger settlement, the day's activity continues. Fresh bread cools upon wooden surfaces. The scent fills the building. Warm grain. Smoke. A faint trace of water and yeast. Workers move steadily. Not hurried. Not slow. Simply practiced. A large jar of Nile water stands nearby. Its surface remains damp from recent use. Throughout the day, hands reach for it repeatedly. To drink. To clean. To prepare more dough. The water collected before sunrise continues serving its purpose hour after hour. Outside the bakery, a donkey passes carrying baskets of vegetables. The animal walks patiently along the road. Its owner follows behind. Dust rises gently beneath their feet. The settlement feels alive with movement. Merchants. Workers. Children. Animals. Yet beneath the activity runs a sense of order. Everyone understands their place within the daily rhythm. The Nile helps create that rhythm. Its presence shapes schedules, responsibilities, and routines. In another part of the village, a woman sits beneath a shaded awning repairing a basket. The woven reeds require occasional maintenance. Her hands move carefully through the work. Beside her stands a water jar partially wrapped with damp cloth. The moisture helps keep the contents cooler. She reaches for the jar and pours a small amount into a cup. The water tastes fresh, refreshing. A welcome comfort as the temperature continues rising. She drinks slowly, then returns to the basket. The simple routine feels peaceful. Many hours of life are spent in such moments. Not remarkable, not dramatic, simply ordinary. Yet ordinary life fills most days. The great monuments of Egypt may capture attention centuries later, but countless generations spent their lives performing humble tasks beneath the same sun. Carrying water, preparing meals, repairing tools, working fields, raising children, resting in the shade. These are the moments that truly shape daily existence. Near the edge of the cultivated land, a young shepherd guides several goats toward a watering place. The animals move slowly through the heat. Dust clings to their legs. The shepherd carries a small container filled earlier that morning. He takes occasional sips as he walks. The water has grown warmer since dawn, but it remains welcome. Every drink reminds him of the river, the source of life for people and animals alike. As midday draws closer, the brightness of the sky becomes almost overwhelming. The blue deepens. The sunlight grows stronger. The roads appear pale beneath the glare. People increasingly seek shelter whenever possible. Shade becomes valuable. Trees become gathering places. Thick walls become sanctuaries from the heat. Inside one cool storage room, rows of water jars rest quietly in the dim light. The room smells faintly of clay and damp earth. The thick mud brick walls block much of the outside warmth. A servant enters carrying another container. He pauses for a moment. The coolness feels pleasant against his skin. He pours water into a larger vessel and listens to the familiar sound. The echo seems deeper inside the shaded room. For a brief moment, everything feels still. Then he returns outside. The day continues. Across the Nile Valley, thousands of similar scenes unfold. Farmers walk fields. Fishermen tend boats. Potters shape clay. Children learn responsibilities. Families use the water gathered during the quiet hours before sunrise. The morning journey may now feel distant, yet its importance remains constant. Every meal, every drink, every washed hand, every irrigated field, every cooled room, all trace back to those early footsteps toward the river. And while the sun steadily approaches its highest point in the sky, the Nile continues flowing beside the fertile land, carrying fresh water through villages where ordinary people move through another peaceful day, supported by the simple ritual of collecting water from the river every morning. The sun slowly climbs toward its highest place in the sky. Across the Nile Valley, the brightness becomes almost dazzling. The fields shimmer beneath the heat. Dusty roads glow pale beneath the midday light. The walls of mud brick homes absorb warmth that has been building since morning. For many people, this is the most demanding part of the day. The cool freshness of dawn is gone. The gentle breeze that moved across the river earlier has weakened. Even the birds seem quieter now. Life continues, but it does so more slowly. People conserve their energy. They seek shade when possible. They pause between tasks. The Nile remains one of the few places where relief can still be found. Along the riverbank, a fisherman guides his boat toward a patch of shade cast by overhanging reeds. The water beneath him reflects the bright sky above. Tiny ripples spread from the boat as it drifts gently. The fisherman removes a small cup from beside his net. He dips it into a container filled with water collected earlier. The drink feels refreshing despite the heat. For a moment he closes his eyes. The river rocks the boat gently. The sound of water against wood creates a soft rhythm. Nothing feels hurried. The river has never been hurried. Nearby, another fisherman rests beside the shore. His sandals lie beside him. His feet touch the cooler mud near the water's edge. The sensation feels pleasant. The mud holds moisture long after the surrounding earth has become hot and dry. He watches a heron standing motionless among the reeds. The bird appears patient. Still. Almost asleep. Eventually it moves, taking a few careful steps through the shallow water. Then it becomes motionless again. The fisherman smiles. Life beside the Nile often encourages patience. The river teaches it without words. Back in the village, the roads have become quieter. Many people remain indoors or beneath shaded structures. The busiest labor now pauses whenever possible. Inside a modest home, a woman prepares a simple midday meal. The room feels cooler than the outside air. Thick mud brick walls protect the interior from the worst of the heat. A large storage jar stands nearby. Its rounded surface remains slightly cool to the touch. The woman lifts a small cup and pours water carefully. The sound echoes softly inside the vessel. The water glimmers briefly in the sunlight entering through a small opening near the roof. She drinks slowly. Then pours another cup for an elderly relative resting nearby. Such small acts happen countless times every day throughout Egypt. Water moves quietly through people's lives. Always present. Always necessary. Rarely celebrated. Yet impossible to live without. Outside, a young boy sits beneath the shade of a palm tree. The tree's shadow forms a dark circle upon the dusty ground. The boy leans against the trunk. Beside him rests a small clay cup. Earlier he helped carry water from the river. Now he enjoys a brief period of rest before new chores begin. The air smells of warm earth and distant cooking fires. A donkey dozes nearby. The village seems almost sleepy. The heat encourages stillness. Even conversation becomes quieter during these hours. Farther away, in a workshop near the edge of the settlement, a potter continues working despite the temperature. His shelter provides protection from direct sunlight. Even so, beads of sweat form along his forehead. The wheel turns slowly. His hands shape wet clay. Water remains essential even here. Without moisture, the clay becomes difficult to work. Without properly prepared clay, jars cannot be made. And without jars, carrying water from the Nile becomes far more difficult. The connection seems simple. Yet it stretches through every part of life. The potter pauses. He reaches for a cup. The water tastes slightly warm now. Still, it provides relief. Still, it restores energy. Still, it allows the work to continue. Beyond the village, fields stretch toward the horizon. Most farmers avoid heavy labor during the hottest part of midday whenever possible. Some sit beneath temporary shelters built near irrigation channels. Others rest beneath palm trees. A few inspect crops from shaded positions. The Nile water flowing through the channels sparkles beneath the sunlight. The sight alone feels cooling. One farmer sits beside a channel and watches the water move. The current is gentle, steady, predictable. He listens to its sound. a quiet trickling against mud and stone. The noise blends with distant insects and the occasional call of a bird. For a few moments, the world feels peaceful. The farmer's responsibilities remain. The work is not finished. But there is no reason to rush. The afternoon will come. The heat will eventually soften. Tasks can continue then. The Nile teaches endurance. Not through speed. Through persistence. Through steady effort repeated day after day. Near a temple farther north, servants move carefully through shaded courtyards. Large stone walls help keep certain areas cool. Water collected earlier fills storage vessels positioned throughout the complex. One servant carries a smaller container across a courtyard. The water inside splashes gently with each step. The sound echoes faintly between stone columns. When he reaches his destination, he pours the contents into a larger vessel. The water joins countless other drops collected from the river. Soon it will be used for cleaning, cooking, gardening, and other daily needs. Nothing remains idle for long. The water gathered before dawn continues working throughout the day. As the sun reaches its highest point, shadows nearly disappear. Palm trees cast narrow dark shapes upon the ground. The sky appears vast and brilliant. The heat settles heavily over the valley. Many animals seek shelter. Goats rest beneath walls. Dogs sleep in patches of shade. Birds remain quiet among the reeds. Even the Nile seems calmer beneath the midday light. Its surface becomes smooth in places. Almost mirror-like. The river reflects the bright sky so perfectly that water and light seem to merge together. Along one section of shoreline, an elderly woman arrives carrying a small container. Unlike the busy crowds of dawn, she finds the river nearly empty now. Only a few people remain nearby. She kneels slowly. Age has made movement more difficult. Still, she manages the familiar task with practiced grace. The jar enters the water. The bubbling sound rises softly. The vessel fills. The river offers what she needs. Just as it has for decades. She pauses before standing. The coolness of the water feels pleasant against her hands. For a moment she simply watches the current. Perhaps she remembers other days. Other summers. Other journeys to the river. The Nile has accompanied her through every stage of life. Childhood. Adulthood. Old age. The river remains. Always moving. Always present. Eventually she rises and begins the walk home. The path stretches before her. The village waits beyond the fields. The afternoon is approaching. Gradually, the sun will begin its descent. The shadows will lengthen once more. The air will cool. People will return to fuller activity. But for now, midday holds the valley in a warm, quiet stillness. Inside homes, workshops, temples, and farms, the water gathered during the peaceful dawn hours continues serving its countless purposes. And beside it all, the Nile flows calmly through the heart of Egypt, carrying its life-giving waters past villages where ordinary people rest briefly beneath the sun before continuing the gentle routines of another day. Slowly, almost unnoticed, the day begins to turn. The sun still shines brightly above the Nile Valley, yet its climb has ended. After reaching its highest point, it now begins a gradual journey downward toward the western horizon. The change is subtle. No trumpet announces it. No sudden shift occurs. The light remains strong. The heat remains present. Yet somewhere deep within the rhythm of the day, people sense that afternoon has begun. Across the villages beside the Nile, life starts moving a little more freely again. The long pause of midday slowly comes to an end. A farmer rises from the shade where he has been resting. His back feels stiff. His hands are rough from years of labor. For a few moments he stretches and looks across the fields. The crops shimmer beneath the sunlight. Irrigation channels continue carrying water between rows of grain. The farmer takes a drink from a clay cup. The water is no longer as cool as it was during the morning. Still, it refreshes him. Still, it helps. Then he returns to work. His footsteps follow familiar paths worn into the earth over many seasons. The fields know him. And he knows the fields. Near the village, a baker opens the door of his workshop. Warm air escapes into the street. The scent of fresh bread follows it. Several loaves rest upon wooden boards. The busiest part of baking has already passed, but smaller tasks remain. Cleaning. Preparing ingredients. Organizing supplies. The baker reaches for a nearby water jar. Its rounded surface feels smooth beneath his fingers. He pours a cup and drinks slowly. Outside, sunlight glows against mud brick walls. The village appears peaceful. Busy, but peaceful. No one seems rushed. The Nile has a way of encouraging patience. Life follows natural rhythms here. The river rises and falls. The sun rises and falls. People work and rest according to those patterns. Farther downstream, a boat drifts lazily along the river. Its sail hangs loosely in the gentle breeze. The boatman sits near the stern. He watches the shoreline pass by. Palm trees. Fields. Clusters of houses. Children playing near the water. The scenery changes gradually. Yet everything remains connected by the river. The Nile links distant villages together. Water travels. Goods travel. People travel. Stories travel. The river carries them all. The boatman dips a cup into a storage vessel beside him. The water inside was collected from the Nile earlier. Now it accompanies him on his journey. He drinks and gazes toward the horizon. The afternoon sky stretches endlessly above him. A few birds glide overhead. The water below reflects their shadows for a moment before they disappear. The scene feels calm. Almost dreamlike. Near another village, a group of women gathers beneath a shaded awning. Some are weaving. Others are repairing clothing. A few simply rest and talk quietly. Nearby stand several water jars. The containers have become part of the scenery. Always present. Always useful. One woman reaches for a cup. She pours water carefully. The liquid catches a beam of sunlight before settling into the cup. The woman drinks. Then she returns to her work. The conversation continues softly around her. Children move in and out of the shade. An elderly grandmother watches them with a gentle smile. Life unfolds slowly. The afternoon seems in no hurry to pass. At the edge of the settlement, a young boy carries an empty container toward the river. The household requires a little more water. Such trips are common. The large collection made before sunrise often serves most needs, but sometimes another journey becomes necessary. The boy does not mind. The river offers cooler air than the village roads. He follows the familiar path. Dust rises beneath his sandals. Palm trees cast patches of shade along the way. As he approaches the Nile, the breeze grows stronger. The scent of water replaces the scent of warm earth. The change feels refreshing. Soon the river appears before him. Its surface shines beneath the afternoon sun. A few fishermen drift near the shoreline. Birds stand among the reeds. The boy kneels and lowers his container. Water rushes inside. The familiar bubbling sound rises once again. A sound heard countless times every day throughout Egypt. A sound so ordinary that many people hardly notice it anymore. Yet it remains one of the most important sounds in their lives. The sound of water entering a vessel. The sound of the river sustaining a community. The boy lifts the filled container. It feels heavier now. He adjusts his grip and begins walking home. Behind him, the Nile continues flowing. Ahead, the village waits. Simple. Familiar. Comforting. Elsewhere, a potter inspects rows of drying jars. Sunlight warms the clay surfaces. The vessels stand quietly in neat lines. Some are small. Others are large enough to store significant amounts of water. The potter moves slowly between them. His experienced eyes notice details that others might miss. A tiny crack. A slight unevenness. A surface that dried too quickly. He makes mental notes. Every jar matters. Especially those intended for carrying water. The river and the potter share a quiet partnership. The Nile provides the water. The potter provides the containers. Together they help sustain daily life. As afternoon deepens, shadows begin stretching once more. At first the change is barely noticeable. Then gradually it becomes clear. Palm trees cast longer shapes. Walls create wider patches of shade. The harsh brightness softens slightly. People welcome the change. The most intense heat is passing. Workers feel renewed energy. Roads become busier again. Farmers continue tasks left unfinished earlier. Merchants speak with customers. Craftsmen return to projects paused during midday. The valley seems to awaken for a second time. Near a fishing dock, several men unload baskets from a boat. Their movements are steady and coordinated. The work requires effort. Yet the cooler air makes it easier. One worker pauses briefly and drinks from a water vessel resting nearby. The cup feels refreshing in his hands. The water tastes familiar. Every Egyptian knows that taste. The taste of the Nile. Not simply a river. A companion. A provider. A constant presence. Across the fields, irrigation channels continue their quiet work. Water flows through them hour after hour. The channels carry life far from the riverbanks. Young crops absorb moisture through their roots. The earth remains fertile. The harvest grows. A farmer watches the water moving through one channel. The sunlight creates bright patterns upon its surface. For a moment he becomes lost in thought. The movement feels hypnotic. Gentle. Steady. Almost soothing. Then he smiles and returns to his task. The day continues. As the afternoon slowly progresses, the sky begins taking on a softer tone. The brilliant white light of midday gradually warms again. Gold hints at its future return. The promise of evening waits beyond the horizon. Soon families will gather. Cooking fires will be lit. Workers will make their way home. Some will visit the river once more before nightfall. Others will sit outside their homes enjoying the cool air. But for now, the afternoon remains peaceful, steady, comfortable in its familiar rhythm. And beside it all, the Nile flows quietly through the heart of ancient Egypt, carrying fresh water past fields, villages, workshops, and homes where ordinary people continue shaping their days around the simple, timeless act of collecting water from the river each morning. The afternoon drifts onward with the unhurried pace of the Nile itself. The sun has moved noticeably toward the west now. Its light remains bright, but it no longer feels as harsh as it did during midday. Across the valley, longer shadows begin stretching over roads, fields, and courtyards. People notice the change. The air feels a little easier to breathe. The heat loosens its hold on the land. Workers who spent part of midday resting beneath shade now return more fully to their tasks. The village becomes active again. Not in a hurried way. Simply in the calm, steady manner that shapes so much of life beside the river. Near a field of barley, a farmer walks slowly between rows of grain. The plants sway gently in a light breeze. The sound resembles a soft whisper moving across the earth. The farmer pauses occasionally to inspect the crop. His eyes notice details others might overlook. A patch growing especially well. A section needing attention. A place where water has flowed differently through the irrigation channels. Years of experience have taught him to read the land. The Nile provides the water. But understanding how to use that water requires patience and knowledge. The farmer kneels beside a channel. The current slips quietly through its narrow path. Tiny reflections dance upon the surface. He reaches into the water with one hand. It feels cool compared to the air. For a moment he simply enjoys the sensation. Then he stands and continues walking. Elsewhere, along a road leading toward the river, a merchant guides a donkey carrying baskets of goods. The animal moves at a steady pace. Neither fast nor slow. The road is familiar. Many journeys have followed this route. The merchant passes homes where children play beneath shaded awnings. He passes workshops where craftsmen continue their work. He passes storage rooms where water jars stand in neat rows against cool walls. Everywhere he looks, signs of ordinary life surround him. The rhythm feels comforting. Predictable. Reliable. Near the center of the village, a woman sits outside her home preparing vegetables for the evening meal. A woven basket rests beside her. A clay water jar stands nearby. Occasionally she reaches for a cup and takes a drink. The water collected during the morning still serves its purpose. Hours have passed since the journey to the Nile. Yet the river remains present through every part of the day. Its water sits beside her now. Its water will help cook the evening meal. Its water will refresh tired family members returning from work. The river's influence extends far beyond its banks. A little farther away, several children gather beneath a large palm tree. The shade forms a cool shelter against the afternoon warmth. Their conversation drifts through the air. One child holds a small clay vessel. Another traces shapes in the dust with a stick. A third watches birds circling above the river in the distance. For children growing up beside the Nile, the river often becomes one of life's earliest memories. The sight of water shining in sunlight. The feel of cool air drifting inland from the shore. The sound of jars filling at dawn. The sight of parents balancing heavy vessels during the walk home. Such memories become part of childhood itself. Near the riverbank, fishermen continue their work. Some boats drift close to shore. Others travel farther into deeper channels. The afternoon light creates shifting patterns across the water. Silver. Blue. Gold. The colors change constantly. A fisherman leans over the side of his boat. His reflection appears briefly upon the surface before ripples break it apart. He checks part of a net. The fibers feel rough beneath his fingers. Years of use have worn them smooth in some places. Repairs will eventually be needed. Everything requires maintenance. Boats. Nets. Homes. Irrigation channels. Water jars. Life beside the Nile depends upon care and attention. The fisherman understands this well. Back in the village, a potter finishes shaping another large vessel. The jar stands tall beside several others. Its purpose is obvious. Water storage. The potter studies his work. The smooth curve of the sides. The thickness of the walls. The balance of the shape. A good jar must be strong enough to survive countless journeys. Many years from now, someone may still be carrying water in a vessel much like this one. The thought pleases him. His work becomes part of other people's lives. Part of their routines. Part of their mornings beside the river. As the afternoon continues, shadows stretch farther across the ground. Palm trees cast elegant patterns over dusty roads. The light grows warmer. The first hints of evening begin appearing. Workers notice renewed energy. The hardest heat has passed. More people emerge from shaded areas. Roads become livelier. Voices carry farther through the cooling air. Near a temple, servants sweep courtyards and organize supplies for the evening. Large storage jars stand beneath covered walkways. Some are filled nearly to the top. Others have been used throughout the day. A servant lifts a lid and peers inside. Water glimmers faintly in the dim light. Enough remains for now. Tomorrow morning new supplies will arrive. They always do. The cycle never stops. One dawn flows into the next. One day follows another. The Nile makes such continuity possible. Farther south, an elderly woman sits beside the doorway of her home. The sunlight falls across the road before her. Children pass carrying baskets. A farmer returns from the fields. A pair of donkeys move slowly through the village. The woman watches quietly. She has seen countless afternoons like this one. Countless evenings approaching. Countless mornings beginning beside the river. Perhaps she remembers carrying heavier loads when she was younger. Perhaps she remembers walking to the Nile with parents now long gone. The river has remained while generations have changed around it. There is comfort in that thought. Something dependable. Something enduring. Nearby, a young girl arrives carrying a small water vessel. She places it carefully beside the household storage jar. A few drops spill onto the ground. The girl wipes them away quickly. Water should not be wasted. The lesson has been taught many times. Not through strict commands. Simply through daily experience. Every jar requires effort. Every journey to the river requires time. Respect for water becomes natural when one carries it personally. The girl smiles when her task is finished. Then she runs off toward other children. The vessel remains behind. Ready for use. Ready to become part of another evening. The sun lowers a little more. The golden quality of the light becomes unmistakable now. Fields glow softly. Mud brick walls take on rich colors. The Nile reflects the changing sky. Its surface appears almost luminous. A flock of birds crosses overhead. Their shadows move briefly across the river before disappearing. The world feels peaceful. Balanced. The day has reached a gentle stage where labor continues, yet rest no longer feels far away. People begin thinking about evening meals. About family gatherings. About cooler air. About the quiet hours that follow sunset. For now, however, the afternoon remains. Warm but comfortable. Busy but calm. And throughout the valley, water collected during the cool darkness before dawn continues serving its countless purposes, while the Nile itself flows patiently onward through the heart of Egypt, accompanying another ordinary day in the lives of the people who depend upon it. The afternoon slowly leans toward evening. The change comes so gently that few people notice the exact moment it begins. 1 hour blends into the next. The sunlight grows warmer. Shadows lengthen across the earth. The air becomes softer. Across the Nile Valley, workers sense that the day is beginning to relax. The hardest labor is behind them. The evening still lies ahead. This in-between time carries its own quiet beauty. Near the river, the sunlight turns the water into flowing gold. Small waves catch the light and scatter it across the surface. The reflections dance among reeds growing along the shoreline. Boats drift through patches of brightness and shadow. The Nile seems calmer somehow. Not because it moves differently. Simply because the world around it is slowing down. A fisherman guides his boat toward shore. His catch today has been modest. Enough for his household. Enough to trade. The result feels satisfactory. Many people living beside the Nile learn to appreciate sufficiency rather than abundance. The river provides what is needed. That is often enough. The fisherman pulls his boat onto the muddy bank. The damp earth feels cool beneath his feet. He pauses for a moment and looks across the water. The opposite shore glows beneath the afternoon light. Palm trees stand quietly against the sky. Fields stretch beyond them. The scene feels timeless. Perhaps his father stood here many years ago. Perhaps his grandfather. The river has welcomed countless generations to these shores. Back in the village, smoke begins rising from a few cooking fires. Not many yet. Just enough to signal the approaching evening. Families are starting preparations for the final meal of the day. Vegetables are cleaned. Grain is measured. Bread is gathered. Water collected before sunrise continues serving its purpose. Inside one home, a woman pours water into a cooking pot. The liquid catches the sunlight entering through a doorway. For a brief moment it shines like polished silver. Then it settles quietly at the bottom of the vessel. The woman stirs ingredients together. The familiar work feels comforting. She has performed these actions countless times. The repetition does not make them meaningless. Quite the opposite. The repetition gives them value. Daily routines become the structure around which life is built. Outside, children continue playing. The cooler air has brought fresh energy. Laughter drifts through narrow roads between houses. Dust rises beneath small feet. A young boy balances a stick across his shoulders and pretends it is a carrying pole for water jars. His friends laugh. They have watched adults perform the task all their lives. The movements are familiar. The posture. The careful balance. The slow walk from river to village. Even children's games reflect the rhythms of daily life. Nearby, an elderly man sits beneath a palm tree. Its long shadow stretches across the ground. He watches the children quietly. The sight brings a gentle smile. Perhaps he remembers his own childhood. Perhaps he remembers making similar journeys to the Nile long ago. The years pass. Children become adults. Adults become elders. Yet the river remains. And the daily routines remain. The connection between generations continues through simple acts repeated over time. Farther along the riverbank, a group of women gathers near a washing area. The busiest work is finished now. Their hands move more slowly. Conversations drift easily through the air. One woman fills a cup from a nearby jar and passes it to another. The gesture feels natural. Unremarkable. Yet it reflects something important. Water is not merely a resource. It is part of community, part of hospitality, part of caring for one another. The Nile touches relationships as surely as it touches fields and crops. The afternoon light continues changing. The golden colors deepen. The edges of buildings glow warmly. Palm leaves shimmer whenever the breeze moves through them. The temperature falls little by little. People emerge from shaded interiors. Roads grow slightly busier once more. The village seems to wake again after the quieter hours of midday. Near a workshop, a carpenter finishes organizing his tools. Wood shavings lie scattered across the floor. The scent of fresh cut wood lingers in the air. He reaches for a clay cup and drinks. The water is no longer cold. Still, it refreshes him. Still, it eases his thirst. He thinks briefly about tomorrow. Tomorrow will begin as today began. Before sunrise. Before the heat. Before the noise of work. The river will be waiting. Someone will carry jars. Someone will walk dusty roads beneath fading stars. The cycle will continue. Such thoughts do not feel repetitive. They feel reassuring. The predictability of life brings comfort. Across the fields, farmers begin completing the last major tasks of the day. A man adjusts part of an irrigation channel. Another gathers tools. A third pauses beside flowing water. The sunlight reflects in bright patterns across the surface. The farmer watches for a moment. The movement of water has a calming effect. Perhaps it always has. The Nile teaches patience simply by existing. No hurry. No anxiety. Only steady movement forward. The river flows. The crops grow. The seasons change. Life continues. Near a larger settlement farther north, river traffic becomes more active as boats prepare for evening arrivals. Some vessels carry grain. Others transport pottery, linen, or vegetables. Boatmen call softly to one another. Ropes are secured. Cargo is checked. The sounds remain gentle. Nothing feels rushed. The river encourages a certain pace. A pace measured by currents, wind, and daylight rather than urgency. One young boatman sits near the bow of his vessel and watches the shoreline pass. Villages appear and disappear. Fields glow beneath the lowering sun. Children wave from riverbanks. Women carry water jars along narrow paths. The scenes feel familiar. Everywhere along the Nile, life follows similar patterns. Different people. Different villages. Yet the same river. The same water. The same dependence upon its gifts. As the sun continues descending, the light grows softer still. Birds begin returning to nesting places. Their calls drift across the valley. The sounds of evening gradually replace the sounds of afternoon. A different mood settles over the land. Less work. More reflection. Less effort. More rest. Inside homes, oil lamps are prepared but not yet lit. Their time is coming. Soon darkness will gather. Soon families will sit together after long days of labor. Soon the river will trade sunlight for moonlight. But for now, the world remains wrapped in golden light. An hour suspended between work and rest. Between afternoon and evening. Between heat and coolness. The Nile flows through it all. Steady as ever. Patient as ever. Its waters carry reflections of the sky while supporting the countless ordinary lives unfolding along its banks. And throughout the villages of ancient Egypt, people move gently toward evening, accompanied by the quiet knowledge that tomorrow morning, before the first light touches the horizon, the journey to the river will begin once again. Evening arrives slowly over the Nile Valley, as if the day is reluctant to leave. The sun lowers toward the western horizon, stretching its light thin across the fields, the river, and the quiet villages. Everything becomes softer. The heat loosens its grip. The air cools little by little, carrying relief after a long day beneath the sky. The Nile changes with the light. Once bright gold, now it becomes deeper in color, reflecting orange, then soft red, then a fading blend of blue and shadow. The water continues moving as it always does, but now it feels calmer, as if the whole world is breathing more slowly. Across the villages, the final work of the day begins to close. Doors are gently shut. Tools are set down. Animals are guided back to resting places. Cooking fires grow stronger as evening meals are prepared. The scent of food rises through the air, mixing with dust, smoke, and the cool breath of the river. Inside homes, families gather closer together. Water collected from the Nile in the morning stands in jars along the walls. It has carried the entire day. It has cooked meals, washed hands, refreshed tired bodies, and supported every small routine that filled the hours between dawn and dusk. Now it rests quietly, waiting to be used again. Outside, children return from play. Their voices are softer now. Their movements slower. They sit near doorways or lean against warm walls, watching the last light fade from the sky. An elder sits nearby, eyes half closed, listening to the sounds of evening settle over the village. There is comfort in this hour. A feeling of completion without urgency. Near the river, the last few fishermen pull their boats ashore. Wood scrapes gently against wet earth. Nets are folded. Catches are counted. The water beside them darkens as the sun disappears fully below the horizon. For a moment, many people pause and look out across the Nile. The river no longer shines like gold. It becomes something quieter. Something deep and endless. A presence that feels older than memory. Then, slowly, people begin to turn away. They walk back toward their homes. Toward lighted rooms. Toward evening meals. Toward rest. Above them, the first stars begin to appear. One by one, they return to the sky, just as they did the night before, and just as they will tomorrow. The Nile reflects them again. As it always does. As it always will. Inside the village, oil lamps are lit. Soft light spills into courtyards and rooms, forming warm circles against the growing darkness. Conversations become quieter. Movements become slower. The energy of the day dissolves into calm. A family sits together, sharing food prepared with water drawn from the river that morning. No one speaks loudly. There is no need. The day has already said everything it needed to say. Outside, the wind moves gently through palm leaves. The river continues its steady journey through the land, untouched by the human rhythm of waking and sleeping. It flows through darkness now, just as it flowed through dawn, midday, and sunset. Always moving. Always present. Always returning. As night deepens, the villages grow still. Lights dim. Voices fade. Homes settle into quiet rest. Only the river remains in constant motion, carrying the memory of the day within its waters. And in the silence of the Nile Valley, beneath a sky filled with ancient stars, everything slowly becomes peaceful again. The land rests. The people rest. The water continues. And the story of another ordinary day beside the Nile gently comes to a close, like a soft breath disappearing into the night.